Hello, welcome to episode 192 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 movies you must see before you die. 2007's Paranormal Activity, although it wasn't widely released until 2009. This film offends me. It really, I'm sorry if you like it, but it bugs me. It bugs me because Paranormal Activity is a film that anyone could make, you know. You just take a camcorder and you can just slap it together. And this guy, Oren Peli, he made this film with a very basic idea of a couple getting haunted and filming it with their camera. And he made this film for next to nothing and then made millions of dollars off of it, spawned all these sequels. People said it was such a great film. And I just don't get it. You know, I could have made a better version of Paranormal Activity than Oren Peli did. I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. I think it's overrated as hell. Maybe the most overrated film of all time. And of course, I'm completely joking. I love this film. Did I get you? Just for a second. This film really is set up for me to not like it. You know, I was not a big fan of the Blair Witch Project. You know, stuff like that. Found footage movies I rarely like. I'd seen this a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Quite liked it. We watched a bunch of the sequels. I really like the second one. I love the third one, which takes place in the 90s, even though it kind of... It's all very convenient, you know, that, oh yeah, they were filming everything back in the 90s too, you know, so there's a lot of conceits that have to be taken with the sequels, but I enjoy them, I like the concept. But the first one, going back to it to film this review, I loved it so much more than I had previously, and I really appreciated the way that it had been made. And I think a lot of people do think that it's just a film anyone could slap together, but that is... that means they've done their job well, because it must have been very hard for them to make this film, and for Oren Peli, who put this film together, and you know, very much low budget, filmed it in his own house, things like that, and it did make this big splash and made a lot of money and spawned all these sequels. But I do think it's a really impressive film from just the filmmaking, because it's supposed to look like it's just footage, right? And I feel like people might take it for granted how difficult that might actually be, from all the technical aspects, from the audio, from the way the camera is placed, to the special effects, which were all done practically and I think enhanced on the computer as well. But also just the way that this film is paced and put together. You have this young couple called Katie and Micah, and they've moved into this new place, I believe anyway. It's implied that they haven't been there very long. And she slowly reveals to him that, you know, when she was younger, she had this thing that kept happening to her, things just moving and kind of distressing events, and her house burned down, and so on. And things start happening to them in this place. And so it's not this haunted house movie, it's a haunted girl movie. You know, it follows her, and they make it very clear that it doesn't matter if you move away from this place. Which I like, because, you know, in any haunted house movie, like a family moves into a new home and bad shit starts happening, it's like, well, get out of that place, move, you know. And that's what I loved about, I think, the first Insidious movie, where they're like, okay, we'll just leave. I loved that, but it makes it clear that it's this one person, this Katie, who has been followed by this presence. And I love how her boyfriend, Micah, felt very believable to me as this kind of, you know, quasi-dick of a boyfriend. You know, you can tell that they're happy together and they have a good relationship, but he doesn't take her very seriously, and he kind of buys this camera almost as kind of just a laugh, you know, just a... You know, yeah, oh, we're gonna catch some ghosts and stuff. And one thing I didn't like though was when, because a lot of it is him just recording everything, you know, and he's like, you know, just filming them eating and stuff. And she's like, why are you doing this? He's like, we've got to capture everything. But there's this one moment where she gets really upset and runs into the bedroom, like she's just distraught. And he runs in and he puts the camera down on the bedside table and kind of like comforts her. And it's filming them, just really creepy. I just didn't like that part at all. I think the movie can do without it. You know, you could have him putting the camera down and it's facing away from them. You just hear her crying. It felt too invasive for me, for him to place the camera and record it while she's in such a bad state and crying her eyes out. That's one part of the film I don't like. But it's just that one shot, you know. But I love the pacing. I love how just small things happen. And they set the camera up in their bedroom at night, and you see kind of the time code kind of moving faster to show that time is moving. You know, obviously you see them moving around in the bed in kind of a time-lapse function, but just like the door will slightly move, you know. And it really builds up, and there's just really ingenious bits of plot, you know, like him spraying the powder down on the floor to see if there's any footprints, and just the way it keeps escalating and escalating, and the way that the camera is used, I just found it really impressive, and I thought it was an incredibly well done film. I enjoyed it before, but I loved it here. The acting isn't fantastic, but I think they both do a fairly consistent job of being believable and natural. I believe a lot of the dialogue was improvised. It comes across as such. You know, you have people maybe stumbling over their words every now and again, like people do in real life, so it felt authentic. Some of the, I think that the Micah was a little less of a believable actor. I thought that the actress who played Katie, and they have the same names, but I think she did a bit of a better job than him. But ultimately, it just all works. I really was impressed by this more than I have been in the past. And I think that probably is more to do with just looking at it more from a technical side, I suppose, and just thinking how difficult some of that stuff would have been to pull off, even though it might appear like they're just winging it and just getting them to film scenes and just slapping it together. I think a lot of time and effort went into making this film, and I think that it shows. For me personally, from the way I view films, I was very impressed by it, but I also really enjoyed the story, and it's definitely one I'll go back to again and again during the Halloween season. I enjoyed the sequels, but this one has that kind of effect of being the first one, and it doesn't have the conceit of, you know, trying to do sequels and things like that and bringing the characters back and, oh, they were filming in the 90s, as much as I enjoyed that. And I think the first one is easily the best. So that's pretty much it. I think I covered all the bases. I think you can tell how much I enjoyed this film. Is it a film you should see before you die? For me, absolutely. You know, the Blair Witch Project is a good one to compare it to because it's a found footage film, and it kind of presents it as a kind of, you know, we found this footage, Paramount would like to thank the families of the people involved, that kind of thing. Obviously, in the era of Paranormal Activity, you know, people aren't going to be fooled by this kind of thing. I guess the Blair Witch Project had the advent of the internet being a new thing, and hoaxes and things like that being a little bit easier to pull the wool over people's eyes, and so the Blair Witch Project probably captured more of a feeling in pop culture of, holy shit, did you see that film with those kids, you know. But, you know, I enjoy this so much more than the Blair Witch Project, and, you know, maybe you can argue that that one is better, but there's just moments in that where they're just walking through the woods, and it's just like, we get it, they're lost in the woods. But in Paranormal Activity, I mean, it just doesn't feel like there's any wasted moments in that film. I mean, you have bits where he'll just be sat there playing a guitar, but it doesn't drag on, and new things keep happening, and I just really love the pacing and just the, you know, the writing of the film, I suppose, the way it was all laid out. So yeah, loved the film. Definitely a film you should check out before you die. And I think a lot of people who haven't seen it would have the same opinion that I had before I saw it, that, oh yeah, another one of those found footage movies. But to me, I think it's great. So there we go. Thank you for watching. Leave me your thoughts on the film if you've seen it, on the sequels. I think I've only seen the 2, 3, and 4, maybe. I know there's like 5 or 6 sequels, something like that. I did get a little bit worn out on them, but I like the one where they use the Xbox Kinect lights. You know, where if you like go into like night vision, you see all these dots around the room, and then you see something moving in the dot. I love that. So yeah, I really liked the concept. So there we go, and it's genuinely creepy. I rarely get scared, but this one, it creeps me out a bit. I think it's done with the use of sound, and the fact there's no music in the film. Again, it's to do with the silence and the building of tension and the sound design. Wonderful. Love this film, so yeah. Okay, so I just talked about Paranormal Activity, and I said there's not much more to say, but there was a few more things I wanted to say, and there was no real way for me to seamlessly slot in a new clip and pull the wool over your eyes and put a picture over it, so I'm just being transparent. There was more I wanted to say, and I'm going to say it right now. So the character of Micah, who I mentioned a little bit in the review that I recorded a few days ago, I really like how he's a bit of a dick, as I was saying, but you get the relationship. It's a believable relationship, and he's the skeptic, which you really need in these kinds of movies, to be basically the audience's through line into the story, because as an audience member, you're going to want to be skeptical about it, like, you know, well, you know, I mean, obviously there's some people who want to go watch these films and they want to believe everything that's happening and get scared by it and surrender themselves to the horror of a paranormal, you know, ghost movie. But, you know, most people in real life would be skeptical, so he's kind of the very handy character to do that. But also I like how, even though at points he sees irrefutable proof and hears irrefutable proof that there is something going on in that house, he still kind of doesn't take it too seriously, and it's a very gradual progression of him slowly coming to grips with the fact that this stuff is real and it's following his girlfriend around. He looks into the history of it happening to another girl, and so I liked how it wasn't just this eureka moment where he saw something on the camera and was like, well, that's it, and then he suddenly took it seriously. he was still joking around like with the Ouija board and stuff, and I loved how that tension really pushed those two characters together, rubbed them the wrong way, and so they were fighting and stuff, and that made the negativity in the house more palpable, and it drove the negative energy of this force to fuck with them even more. I love the character of the medium who comes in to help them, and he's like, hey, this ain't my kind of thing, I'm more of a psychic, you know, speaking to loved ones that you've lost. And when they call him back towards the end of the film, he's like, as soon as he walks through the door, he's like, I can't be here, there's so much negativity, this is dangerous, like, you need to leave. Like, it really amps up the tension towards the end. And yeah, I love how it's this film that is so creepy and has all that tension, and it's an unseen entity. It isn't some monster, you know, it's the fear of the unknown. And I think everyone has that, where they've been in bed at night, it's dark, there's nothing happening, no TV isn't on, complete silence, then you hear something creaking, and you're like, well, what is that? And you know that it's nothing, but you still, there's something in the back of your head, and that's what this film taps into. That's what so many horror films tap into, but I think more than most, for me, this one really captured that feeling of being afraid of what you're hearing in the dark. So yeah, just a few more points I wanted to get across and really express how much I loved this the second time. And on with the rest of me kind of wrapping up the video that I filmed a couple of days ago. There you go. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.